Hi, welcome back. We are going to be talking now a little bit about why it is that popularity is so important. How come this is something that is affecting us so much when we are young, and how come it's something we seem to kind of gravitate towards for the rest of our lives? Well, let's talk about what a little bit. One thing I am going to point out is the idea that this has become really explicit. Have you ever noticed it recently if you are on the web? There's a lot of information about what's trending. Whether you are on Twitter or whether you are just even looking at a news story or anything you see, you sometimes see these graphics that talk about how many times has a story been tweeted, or how many people have liked it on Facebook, or how many comments are there. And often it's right at the top of the story. In fact, even after you're done reading the story, this may be those icons again encourages you like you should tweet about it, you should like it on Facebook. Why is that happening? We have kind of almost grown accustomment to it. I think one of the reasons why this is happening is because it's based on this fundamental premise. That if we see that a lot of people are really interested in something, we will think somehow it's good, it's important. We want to do that everyone else is doing, even if we resist that idea and we think, no, I am an individual, I don't just conform. Still, we are kind of a bit influenced by that. We think, well, if this is something that 3,000 other people have liked, when it must be something really important that I need to look at. It's the same thing when you watch a commercial and they say this is the #1 movie at the box office. There's are really trying to pull on the idea that it's popular and therefore that means it's good. But why does that work so well? Why do we even care about the fact that everyone else is doing it? I mean, I want to read the news stories that I think are of interest to me, and I don't think my interests are going to be the same as 10,000 other people that read the same news story. So why would I automatically think that it's important? It turns out that a lot of this might have to do with the way that we developed as species, and the way that we can think about that is we look a step why back and thought about this from an evolutionary perspective. So let's go back to the world of cavemen and cavewoman. And really thought about what life was like at that time, because that's how we develop the brains and we have today. Even though that's a long time ago, it's not very long ago from the perspective of our biological development. So there are lots of ways what happened back when in still influencing us today, and it's still influencing how our brains work. So have you ever noticed how you yawn when other people around you will yawn? Ions are kind of contagious. Or have you ever heard that when women live together in close quarters or spend a lot of time together, their menstrual cells will start to synchronize. That is has to do with the same idea here. It's the sense that when we were cave people a long time ago, we quickly learned that we are going to do a lot better if we live together, and if we kind of pay attention to signals from each other. So if you think about it, if you went on your own, well, you would have a hard time getting food, right? And if you got food and you killed something like a quad wilder beast of water bear, you're not going to be able to eat all of that all by yourself, so it's really infected. And if you try to save the rest of it, it's going to spoil, and your children are going to get sick and die. And evolutionary, you're going to be weeded out. So we really learn that when it comes to food, same as safety, protection one another. Or when it comes to our ways of coordinating activities, like when should we all go to sleep, what why can we all go to the next part of their normal group, so that helps us get to the next part of their we are trying to move to. It would be good if that was all synchronized, and we were in a herd, and we learned to be a herd, and the more you stay in the herd, the more you sleep when everyone sleeps. That way we can all work together and move together at the same time. The more that anyone stops to give birth to or conserve new babies, that should all happen at the same time. We should all eat together, we should all protect each other. If you are living that hurt, then those things will be threatened. You want to get food, you want to be safe, you want to stop at the same times as other, and you might get kicked out. You might be alone, you might be unsafe, and that's not good for you. The people that did that, they were weeded out through nature selection. We are all the people that did that. They were weeded out through nature selection. We are all the people that survived by learning to pay attention to that the heart has to say. It turns out that has had a really cool indirect effect on how our brains are put together, but we just recently discovered this in ways that we kind of didn't even expect. So there have been a lot of researchers that have been interested in understanding how the brain works, and in particular there have been a lot of people that have looked at how the brain kind of lights up in the family. Let's say then we experience pain. So that I mean by that is there have been a lot of studies that they have asked people to lay down in family. So there is kind of line there, and they show them screen over their head, and they give them an opportunity to experience some types of stimuli. Now, in some cases, those might be real life stimuli. So while their hand is sticking out of the family, they might get a little prick or some sort of a painful stimulus. And when that happens, the family I would allow them to see that areas of the brain and kind of lightening up. And that we learned was very reliably for a very long time were seen in research that there are particular areas that tell us that we are experiencing pain to the and there are areas that tell us it's time to start regulation this pain and doing something about it. Now the parts of our brain that thinks pain, it's really important because the pain is our ways off. It's the brain's way of telling us something very serious is happening. You need to do something about it. This is going to threaten your survival. So pain is kind of the most powerful signal that our brains can give us to tell us that if we don't do something soon we may die or our species may be in trouble. Well, an interesting thing happens. So there's some researchers including Naomi Eisenberger from you have decided to do some studies looking at people in the fMRI machine in the magnet. And they asked them to, instead of getting the real pain, they asked them to participate in some internations where they were getting excluded by others. And the way that this worked was sometimes there were real people that folks were communicating with while they were in the magnet. And sometimes they were just pretend, but either way the experiment and just put it together, so the person in the fMRI magnet thought that they